Kyle Klingman with Trackwrestling. We have the very first four-time National Collegiate Women's Wrestling Champion, two-time Junior World Champion, two-time World Team member, and an incredible dancer, Victoria Anthony. How are you?
Hello, I'm great. Did you say dancer?
Yeah, well, I've seen your videos here where you're dancing and you had all the international flavor. I got to ask how you did that because that was pretty
Oh, yes. I was like, are you confusing me with Jakara? Because I can't dance. But yes, that was amazing. So fun to get that together. Actually, my friend, she became much better of a friend through that project. Cynthia Veskin, she's a two-time Olympian for France, approached me, and it was such a trend at the time that we were considering doing it on our own anyway. A few American girls were talking about it. So I was like, oh, cool, Cynthia's got this going. We'll just, so from that point, she was the visionary, and then I was glue and reaching out to all the girls and adding tidbits here and there. So it was great.
How do you coordinate that? Because you drop the shoes and coming from the side, different angles. How do you do all that?
You ask people to re-record a lot because you're trying to communicate with a bunch of girls internationally, right? And first of all, there were some that I would send a message to ask if they wanted to be in it. And it's like this, what I thought was a well-written message. And they messaged back like 2 days later and they're like, what do you want me to do? So that was a coordination effort in itself. But yeah, just asking everyone to follow kind of like a standard of guidelines as to like, please drop the shoes down. Some people like chuck them. And I don't know. There's like a few funny things. It was like, can you please re-record this when it's daytime in your country?
So when you have the singlet on and then you go and get the dress on, do you pick that out in advance? What's that process look like?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I don't think any girl doesn't take at least a day to figure that situation out. Yeah. So it was just pretty fun because some of the girls pick things that represented their culture. Like a girl from Norway, she was like, can I wear I'm not even going to try to put a combination of letters together that make up whatever that dress is called. But I guess it's a traditional Norwegian dress. And I was like, oh my gosh, yes, please do. And she's so awesome. She has a spin in it. The African girls wanted to wear more traditional wraps and headpieces, but they were stuck all in, I think, Burkina Faso at the time. Like they were all stuck in the same country and they didn't have any access to anything. And then my outfit, I was like, well, what looks the best? That's what we're going with.
What was the response to that? You can see it clearly on the comments, but did you get any personal feedback on what people thought?
Yeah, it was amazing. People were so encouraging, so impressed, and it was awesome. Like out of, I don't know, across multiple platforms, minimum a few 100,000 views, maybe like 500,000 views. The only negative comment I saw was from someone that asked if they're like, is this even appropriate? To which I saw the comment and I was like, actually, yes, it is appropriate. We asked everyone to express themselves and stay authentic to what they wanted to wear and, who they are as a person. And that's what one of the many things I love about wrestling, but women's wrestling in particular, is that we cover so many personality types. So we cross so many races, so many cultures, and everyone is so different, has such different backgrounds, has grown up so differently, has come to the sport so differently. So I like that was expressed in the video, and it wasn't just a bunch of, I don't know, trying to fit into like any type of cookie cutter of what maybe people think a quote unquote role model should be, or anything at all. Like everyone was authentically themselves. So I really like that.
How do we continue to promote women's wrestling and then promote it in the right way, Victoria?
Personally, I think the most valuable thing right now are personal platforms. So it's elevating people's personal platforms. Because like I said, we have someone for everyone. And to elevate women's wrestling as a whole, young girls need to see what a women's wrestler even looks like. But a women's wrestler doesn't look like any one thing. So they should be seeing everyone, because there's going to be someone that looks like them. So it's really important that only one or two people don't get promoted that have a certain aesthetic, especially because then a whole population of athletes, potential athletes, never see someone that look like them and never think, oh, I could be doing this. Like, for example, Maya Nelson, I've heard her say multiple times, just considering all of the Black movement that's happening now, she's like, yeah, I didn't realize, but I had never seen a Black athlete, a Black female athlete. Because it's one thing to never see a Black athlete, and then it's another, Black female is even smaller of a category. And that's across other categories as well. Black, Asian female athletes, this and that, But that's what I'm saying. it's important that she said until she reached the senior level, I believe she didn't see a black female athlete, sorry. So yeah, I think it's important that we're showing all types of people across all cultures, all sexual preferences as well, or I don't know what the right terminology is for that, but it's important that everyone gets represented, because then everyone realizes they have a chance to be included. And I also think it's important for organizations to have women in non-athletic roles within the media. So in front of the camera, behind the camera, on the social media team, to be like, hey guys, we need to have a strategic plan towards placing women on our social media platform. Not like, oh, a girl did something cool today, so let's put her on, because that'll lead to when there's no strategy, personally, I don't see a way to consistently achieve what you're aiming at. You know what I mean? Like, no wrestler tries to enter a season and win an Olympic gold medal without a super detailed minimum 4-year plan. Some people 8 years of developing in order to get to that end result. You know, so I think there's a lot to it that, and all of that requires attention.
Becoming a good wrestler is hard enough on its own, but as you articulated, being a black female wrestler, do you feel an added part of your wrestling career that you have a responsibility for?
Only recently. I did not feel that before, and I think largely due to, because I've taken a lot of time to reflect and analyze myself and my upbringing, and just like because I've honestly never taken a hard look at the racial I don't know what to call it, structure of this country, and also I've lived in Canada for 5 years, so I kind of have another route of comparison, and I think that's partly why I think my view is very, very different from almost anyone's, because I moved to Canada at 18, and really different cultural makeup at the school. I chose that school because it had a really large international population over any school that was available to me at the time. But also, I don't know if many schools are like Simon Fraser in that way. And then in addition to that, I've been traveling since I was 16, and I've been to 50 countries, but most of those are repeats. Like, I've been to some countries 10 times, other countries 5 times. So the way that I've maneuvered to this point in my career as a Black female athlete is just very, very different, I think. But with that, having to take a hard look at what is going on, largely due to George Floyd's murder, and then choosing to really immerse myself from that point forward, because I did feel that I have a responsibility with the platform I have to, first of all, not spew information that is incorrect, but to definitely speak up about whatever it is that I think I should be speaking up about, and that is right and that is just. And those are the things that I came to find, is that we all need to stand up for what's just, and there are so many injustices happening. I mean, across the globe, to minority populations within this country, and within the Black community, and against the Black community, but against a lot of other communities too. And it's just like, I personally, I live such a great life, and such a blessed life, and one I'm so grateful for. And I could continue to choose to not take any type of voice or responsibility in situations that I know are happening, but that's something that I cannot do now that I've taken a deep enough dive and taken a look at things head on.
What was your upbringing, and how did it influence your view of the world?
So my family is New Orleans Creole. That's our heritage, meaning everyone's pretty much from the city of New Orleans, and New Orleans is a port city. So the way that I understand it is that there were Black slaves living in the area of New Orleans years and years ago, and then everything pretty much got all mixed up as Spanish traders would come into the port, French traders come into the port, and also like Native American people to that land. So my family is all of those things and more that I need a 23andMe to identify. But because of that, that's a very specific culture in itself. And then that culture experience, because it is the South of the United States. My grandmother has stories about segregation. My mother has. It's really funny because I was talking to my mom about it recently, and she's like, "Yeah, I really preferred New Orleans because if people were going to be racist, they were straight up in your face about it. You were very, very aware of it, and the remnants of segregation and then redlining still existed when she was a child. So there wasn't a whole lot of conflict. People were still very separate. But then because of the way that my mom experienced racism, and then also my father, so he wasn't born in New Orleans, but his parents were. They migrate out to Los Angeles. There's a lot of people that will migrate from New Orleans to California for various reasons. But I think one of them, as I'm learning, is, the racial makeup and issues that occurred there historically. But so my father as well, and I was born in Palmdale, which is where there's just a lot of I've realized recently, like, a lot of hate crimes, and there's an Afro Man song about Palmdale because he's from there, and it just touches on the race note. And my parents moved from that area, and then we lived in LA briefly, down to Huntington Beach when I was, like, I don't know, very young. So from there, at that point forward, I grew up in Huntington, and I think they did that to keep me away from a lot of what they experienced, a lot of what their parents experienced, just in a very suburban neighborhood with not many of the issues that they had to face.
Being the first 4-time women's national collegiate champion, does that give you an added platform?
I'm going to answer very honestly and say, no, I don't think so. And I say that because there wasn't much media at the time that I won my 4 national titles in that direction. So people, like, if I'm coming on a podcast, they'll look everything up beforehand, or maybe they'll know it beforehand. And so it gets brought up like that. But otherwise, I don't think it was, like, publicized in any real wild way that, especially it was different social media setup at the time. But of course, USA Wrestling, the major media outlets had articles about it, but no, I don't think so. I don't think it has a lot to do with my current platform.
With that being said, did you feel like it was a big accomplishment? Because it is. Did you feel going into it like this special?
Yes, because it's something I set out to do, and so that was, one marker towards my overall aim of the first thing I've set out to do from childhood in judo, which is become Olympic champion, make the United States Olympic team, and subsequently win the Olympic Games. So for me, that's the highest and the most important, even beyond any world championship, even beyond being a world champion. I don't know, I've never really even had it in my, it's, like, strange to say, but it's the truth. I've never truly really had it in my head that, like, I cared so much about winning a world title. So in the same way, I was proud and happy of my WCWA titles, and really grateful to do it my way at a school with people I truly love. Like, I love my teammates at Seven Sister. I love my coach. And more than anything, I'm so grateful for the 4 years of that experience. But my ultimate aim is to make the Olympic team and win the Olympics. So that's, it felt like cool, I did this. I know that I can do the things that I set out to do. And from here, I'll keep going.
What was the response when you went full bore on wrestling? Did you have a positive response, or did you meet some resistance?
When I joined the sport of wrestling? Yeah. I had a positive response, and I'm really grateful for that too, because I know a lot of women don't have that, and I did. I joined my freshman year high school boys wrestling team, and I think my coach, well, there were 2 girls on the team at the time. One was just like this wiry girl that always did her best. So the coach already had, like, I think he was always really proud of that girl because she would get whooped up on, but she had no feel for wrestling whatsoever, but she showed up every day and worked her hardest every day. And, so he had a positive intro to the sport because of her. And the other girl actually tried to bully me off the team. So in that way, there was a little bit of resistance, but it wasn't from who you would expect. And then lastly, my coach, Dennis Paramo, my high school coach, I think in some ways he didn't necessarily know what to do with me. And he's like, well, I'm just going to treat her like I treat everybody else, and that's testament to him and who he is, because he wouldn't, he never treated me any differently than the guys, except for maybe making fun of me for getting more emotional. And the guy, which at the time was okay because of, it's our relationship. I'm very close with my high school coach. But overall, that was a really positive way to continue through the sport for me. And I never, besides my own insecurities about being a girl on the boys wrestling team, I didn't feel outcasted, by the leadership. And I'm really appreciative of that.
When I think of your wrestling, I think of a diverse range of attacks. How did you build such a great arsenal of offensive attacks throughout your career?
I think a few things. One, to start with judo. So I did judo from when I was 6 years old, right up until I started wrestling. And so that's where a lot of my feel comes from for trips, foot sweeps, throws. And then secondly, I think it's a part of who I am. I require novelty to continue. And so I just love, and I love breaking things down, and I love looking at the pieces of things. So I love the technical component of wrestling, and I love being able to get my body to complete a new technique and put things together in ways that I didn't even know they fit together. I knew I had these pieces, and they'll just sometimes come out in a match, like inside trip arm throw. And because that's what keeps me engaged in the sport in the first place. I think that's part of why I have such a wide variety of attacks.
Instruct us as the media how we can get better, what we can do better to promote women's wrestling.
I would say that track is doing a great job in the first place, so I really appreciate that. My viewpoint might be different from other people's, but again, I believe personal platforms are massively, I just see it. You can be massively successful on YouTube having no following to start with, and you can be massively successful on Instagram or Twitter. You can literally build out a personal platform without requiring anything. So I think we need to continue to elevate personal platforms, personal voices, also the things that women wrestlers are doing that is, that's unique and allows them to be a role model in this society. Of course, one starting with being a wrestler, but so many women are doing so many things outside of the sport that are so amazing. Like Catherine Shaw has a business. I have a business. Helen Maroulis is championing so many causes. Adeline Gray is championing so many causes. Mallory Velthy is championing so many causes. So, and to be doing that while you're operating at the highest level of the world, making world teams, winning world and Olympic medals, winning world and Olympic titles, it's crazy. It's a lot. It's a lot on any one person. So these girls are just really, really amazing and continuing to elevate the platforms. And then the other thing I think is just using the resources that any one person has that lead us to the outside of the wrestling world, not necessarily only operating within it. Because there's no one that I've met on an airplane that knows nothing about wrestling or myself when we start talking, as we always do, because I talk so much. And they ask who I am. Oh, okay, what do you do? What's your name? What do you do? And I'm like, I'm Victoria, and I compete for the United States in women's freestyle wrestling. And they're like, what do you do? And that's just 99.9% of the time, the response, that they're astounded, their eyebrows furrow, they want to know more information. They're like, but what do you mean? But is it this? Is it WWE or is it wrestling? That's crazy. Like, and they can't, at that point, I'm like, it's time for me to nap and I can't get out of this. And knowing that about this sport of women's wrestling and this intersection of being a female and being ferocious and being willing to endure things that most people on this planet are not interested in enduring, but they're interested in hearing the story. I think it's, using that towards connections outside of the wrestling world and pulling people in. And that's how we'll grow a fan base that's bigger and bigger, and we can continue to scale the sport, get more donorship, more money invested into the women's side of the sport, among other things.
You like the platform you get with Instagram. You have a great following.
I do have a great following. I'm so appreciative of them. I actually, in particular, am appreciative of my following because just a funny recent event was Jorge Masvidal, UFC fighter, reposted a couple things to his story of mine where I tagged him. And within a day, I had 10,000 more literally views on my story. Then I was getting all these crazy messages from people, and I was like, who are these people? And I'm like, oh, they're not my current fans. So to my fan, the people that support me on my Instagram, and I love interacting with, I feel like I'm able to teach a lot of people. They also are able to teach me, and that's great. Instagram as a platform itself, I don't love because it's not monetized, whereas YouTube is a platform that is monetized. So so much has happened in the past 8 weeks with starting a business, the Black Lives Matter movement, and now kind of championing the gender cause that I've been intending to get this YouTube off the ground for quite a while, but I really feel like this week we'll be able to release a couple videos. So I do enjoy Instagram as a platform, but I think YouTube's a better place for me as a platform because I'm so chatty. So look out for that move as well.
Tell us about your business. You mentioned that earlier.
Yeah, so at the start of quarantine, and the start of COVID, firstly, I was like, this is crazy. But I do think one of the gifts I've been given in this lifetime is just a gift of a positive attitude that sees the good in all things and sees the opportunity in all things. And knowing how badly so many people are struggling, just mentally and emotionally with the situation, and also physically, and financially, I just wanted to do something to help people through the situation. And I didn't know what it was going to be. I had no idea, but I was like, I don't feel that run down by this. I know it's really, really crazy, but I kind of thrive in chaos. So I was like, I feel like I can lend a helping hand in some way. And then secondly, like I said, I see the opportunity in all things. And I know that when there's a lot of change, there's going to be opportunity. And I just never seen myself as someone that works for someone else. I've always seen myself running a business, or, just controlling my own finances in that capacity of how they're coming in, like a YouTube channel, things like that. So I was like, okay, well, this is the time to get to the nitty gritty and figure out the path to who you're going to be, Victoria, financially. So I was like, okay, started looking at different avenues, and then decided to produce these fitness bands as, the way to help people, because it's literally the best piece of at-home workout equipment I own. It comes with 5 bands of varying resistances. So one part of the problem with resistance bands, you buy one and then you outgrow it, you got to get another one, or you need different bands for different activities. And these bands allow you to, at minimum, build a program upwards of resistance and use them for different activities in that way. And they also come with different accessories, so you can actually hook them into any door, and you can use them at any height. So that makes them just really, really valuable for the home workout piece that so many people are struggling with during quarantine, and causes so many other issues when you're body confidence. You're like, oh no, like the quarantine 15, all of that. So like, okay, this should help people. And also, I really hope to set an example to people that they can do anything they want in this life. They can build anything they want. They can create anything they want, because I had not the smallest idea of business, building a website, negotiations, having a product manufacturer. Like, there was anything that had to do with this, I didn't know how to do it when I started. But we live in an age where all the information to do anything you want is available to us. I would be, unless it's maybe something to do with outer space. But outside of that, you should be able to figure it out, because everything, if you have a phone or a computer. So I just wanted to show people that. So that's the base of the business. And it's called, the website is freeflowgusto.com, if anyone's interested.
Well, talking of names, you have a nickname, Vicky Vortex or Victoria Vortex. I don't know what you prefer, but you have to give us the backstory on that name.
Actually, that's a good question as to what I prefer to start, because I really prefer Vicky Vortex for a nickname, but I hate being called Vicky. I prefer being called Victoria. So I was like, man, I think I have to change this, because as my platform grows, people are calling me by not my name. I prefer Victoria in being addressed. But what was the second question?
How did you get the nickname?
Oh, yes. Amanda Hendy gave me the nickname, which is kind of funny because her nickname is Hurricane Hendy. And her and Julia Salata, we had just got to the OTC, and we were supposed to be, we had like 5 minutes, and we decided to go somewhere. And they came into my dorm room at the OTC after that 5 minutes of being on Complex, and I had trashed my room because I was looking for something, and and I didn't see it as a problem at the time. Since I've made some changes, I would call myself Vortex 2.0 now. But they were like, what is going on in here? There was like a lamp knocked over, and the fridge was open. And I was like, I'm looking for blah, 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 and I can't find it. What do you mean? And they're like, this is crazy. This is unacceptable, number one. But it's funny because we had to take a picture, but she was like, you're like a vortex. And so that's where that started.
So let's say you have a decision to make here. We have NBC coming to you, and they say, we want to have you for a show, but we need you to pick the title. What do you prefer? Welcome to the Vortex, Into the Vortex, or Vicky's Vortex?
Oh, Welcome to the Vortex for sure.
Yeah. I think it's a good show.
That's not a bad idea at all. I need some names for some new things happening, so maybe I'll swipe that.
We've talked a lot about your background, but how's just current training right now?
Oh, I love it. I'm so happy right now. We've just started. So I live in Calgary, Alberta, up in Canada. It's directly above Montana. for those who don't know where it's at. And I did not know where it was at until I got here. So I drove here from Arizona. And that training is great because we now have access to our regular gym where we lift, which is a facility called Winsport, massive facility where they have all the elite training happening on this side of the country. And so I just got a lift in this morning in a very real gym where everything I needed, because I'm really grateful too. My apartment gym is awesome, but like trying to do cleans with a bar that doesn't spin, you're just like risking injury and a lot of other things. So that's great. Lifting wise, and then training, we go out in the field two practices a week, and then we're now getting on the mats 1 to 2 extra practices a week. That's great.
Is 2021 it for you? You thinking past that?
2020 had always been the ideal end. So now 2021 is actually even more ideal because it gives me more time with my current coach and my training situation. So I was going to be on very short time here in Calgary. Now I'm not. And then it's really hard to say. I might fight. I'm really interested in fighting because of judo. I did a little bit of jiu-jitsu. And I can't wait to go back to martial arts. Like before ever wrestling, martial arts were the love of my life. And sometimes I'm like, I even almost feel strange in the wrestling world because I know that's where my heart lies and in the first place. So knowing that and now being a ninja is a viable career path for women, I'm like, oh, I think I should at minimum give this a go. So that's what I've said to myself. Because for a long time I was like, am I going to fight? Am I not going to fight? Should I do this? Should I not do this? And I'm such an all-in or all-out person. I was thinking I have to commit to winning a championship belt if I'm going to step foot on in an MMA gym. And now I'm like, okay, wait, maybe you should try it first. So commit to, 1 year and see from there. But because the Olympics got moved, I'm already 29. I'll be 30 starting that career, which is okay. DC did it, but there's kind of no time to waste on that. So we'll see. That's my plan for right now.